Hi, it's Penny here, and today I wanted to start talking about all the series that I have in progress. So one thing I know that a lot of readers struggle with is that we're always starting new book series, and then before you know it, you've got an awful lot of book series in progress and you haven't finished any of them. So one of my main reading goals for this year, and I suspect for next year as well, is that I've been trying to get to what I'm calling Series 0, which is where I have no series in progress. And so as part of trying to achieve this, I've put together a list of all the series that I have in progress. And what I realized is I think currently I would need to read 117 books to get to Series 0. Now, it was briefly down to 100 and then I started 3 new series, so I'm not sure we're going in the right direction, but I'm trying. So in this video I'm going to start talking about all the series that I have in progress, but I've broken this into 3 sections because otherwise I think we'll be here all day. And this first section is just going to be series that are complete, so there's no reason why I couldn't complete these series. The books have all been released, I just need to read them. So I think this is the biggest section of my TBR. I think this is 18 of the series that I have in progress. And I think I'd need to read 79 books to finish all of these. But still, I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it. I think this should be really what I focus on for this year. And then maybe I can do the next ones next year. I don't know. Anyway, let me start telling you about all the books. I think I'm going to order this from series where I need to read the fewest number of books to complete it to series where I still have a lot to read. So then the first one that I'm going to talk about is this Book of the Fairy series by Maggie Stiefvater. This is an early series of her about these musicians that basically come across these fairies and get involved in that world. I read the first one. I'd actually not even heard about this series and I found them randomly at the secondhand bookshop for like $2. But the sad story about this trilogy is that she never wrote the 3rd book. And in fact, she's pretty much said she will probably never write it now because her writing style has changed so much that she wouldn't even approach the story in the same way anymore. So how does she even write the 3rd book? In a lot of ways, this is like Twilight, but fairies instead of vampires. So I get what she's saying. And I've kind of just come to accept that this is going to be just a 2-book trilogy. It's a new invention, the 2-book trilogy, not a duology. A 2-book trilogy. So I just need to read this one to count the series as complete as I can be, probably ever. And I have this on my TBR for this month, so hopefully I can do it. Then the next series I actually have on my way to me from the library. I put a hold on it. It says it's in transit. When will it get here? I don't know because it's been in transit longer than most books from the library ever are, so it's a bit of a mystery. But I'm talking about the Camelot Rising series by Kirsten White. So the first book was The Guinevere Deception, and the second one was called something, I'll put it here. It's an Arthur and Camelot retelling, except that Guinevere is a changeling. She's not really Guinevere, and she's there to try and protect Arthur. And there's some interesting twists on the original Camelot mythology. I wasn't that sure about the first book, but then I happened to get the audiobook for the second book, and Guinevere's sister turned up, which was unfortunate since Guinevere is not really Guinevere and things got very difficult. I actually really enjoyed that second book, so I'm interested to see what the 3rd book is going to do as soon as it arrives from the library. Then next we have the Lightbringer series, starting with the Black Prism. I have actually read the first 4 books of this series and there are 5 in the series, so I've only got to read 1 more. It's a world where there's all this color-based magic and certain people can draw colors out of things and do magic depending on the color. Some people have the ability to draw more than 1 color, and there is also this religious figure, the Black Prism, who's able to draw all the colors. However, there's a lot of political intrigue going on. The Black Prism is not exactly who everyone thinks he is. And we've also got some other really interesting characters learning about their magic as well. I've only got to read 1 more book for this. I actually have the audiobook and I'm probably going to start listening to it today. So I'm making progress. Then next we have the series which I think is probably one of the longest series that I have floating around, definitely the longest complete series, and that is the Elemental Assassin series by Jennifer Estep. And I just need to read the 19th book to complete this series. I'm pretty sure the 19th book is the final series, even though I felt like the series could continue on, and I can't believe it's going to wrap up in just 1 more book. But also, I already gave that book to my mum for Christmas last year. Was it her birthday? Anyway, I originally bought this series just because I saw it. It looked like a fun paranormal kind of story that my mum might like, and she liked it so much that she went out and bought the rest of the series that had been released so far at that point. And ever since, I've been giving it to her every birthday and Christmas. I think the last few books were actually self-published by Jennifer Estep. We're following this girl named Jin, who is also the assassin, the spider, and throughout the book series she kind of builds up this found family, as well as learning more and more about kind of the underbelly of this magical world. I would say this series can be quite formulaic, but it's also just really fast-paced and a lot of fun, and I'm looking forward to finishing the series. Okay, so that's all the books where I only need to read one book more to finish them off. Then we've got some that I need to read 2 books. A lot of these are trilogies that I've just started. So firstly, we've got the Howl's Moving Castle trilogy. I don't know what that trilogy is called. Is it called that? I think as well this is a trilogy, and then there's more books in the same world that are kind of a different series. I'm just treating them as a different series for now because I'm trying to keep these numbers down, and also like maybe once I've read the first trilogy I won't want to read more books in the series. But I really loved Howl's Moving Castle. What is it even about? It's about this girl named Sophie who is cursed to become old, and when she's old she runs into this wizard Howl and his moving castle. There's so much more to it than that. It's really magical, quite different from the movie, but I still really enjoyed the book and the whimsical kind of writing style. Also in the book there is kind of a reference to the real world, so I'm interested to see if we get more of those real world connections in the series as well. Oh, actually, maybe I lied because the next one is not a trilogy. So the next one is a 5-book series, which is what is this series called? The Demon Cycle. The first book is called The Painted Man. I think it has a different name in different areas. But I've read the first 3 books. I've just got to read 2 more. To be honest, I don't necessarily like the writing style of these books or the characters, but I do find the world really interesting. So when the sun goes down, these demons come out, and there's all these different kinds of demons, and the humans have developed wards which keep the demons out. So as long as they stay within their wards at night, they can stay safe. There's also this other culture that goes out and fights the demons, and we're following people from these different cultures as they kind of clash with each other, as well as fight the demons and learn more about this demon mythology and what's going on with the demons. So this is a series I really want to love, but the way that it's written often really frustrates me. I did actually pick up the audiobook for the 4th book, and just at the time I couldn't concentrate on it again. I almost thought about DNFing the series, but I am still really interested to learn some more things about the world, so I think I will continue via audiobook when I have enough mental space, which now that I've finished working for a little while, maybe I'll be able to find. Then we have the Spellslinger series by Sebastian de Castell. Now I almost counted this one as complete because I have read the original 7-book series. However, there's a couple of books that have also been released about the Argosy, which was my favorite element of the Spellslinger series. I think maybe they're just short stories / novellas, but still I want to read them, and so I'm going to read those. The Spellslinger series is hard to talk about because it's a 7-book series and so much happens, but in the first book we have this boy who is coming up to his magic exams, but at the same time realizes that he's losing his magical abilities, and so he decides to come up with a way to trick his way through his exams. It doesn't work out that well. He ends up kind of exiled and traveling around the world and learning so much more about his magic and all these other kinds of magic as well. But one of the other groups of people he came across is the Argosy, who are kind of like traveling philosophers. I found them really intriguing, and I believe these novellas or whatever they are give us some more insight into those characters, and so I can't just skip them. I often don't put novellas on my list, but these ones, I put them on the list, even though obviously I know nothing about them. Okay, then series where I need to read 3 books to finish the series. Firstly, we've got the Magic Misfits series by Neil Patrick Harris. I feel like a lot of people don't know that Neil Patrick Harris wrote this middle grade fantasy series about kind of this boy who is an orphan and runs off and makes a bunch of friends. But also, it has all these secrets throughout it that you can figure out, and like it teaches you how to do magic tricks. It's just a really fun middle grade series that was really heartwarming and accepting of different people. So I have been meaning to continue this, and now that he's finished the series, really I should just do it. they're middle grade, so they're super quick reads. Then I've also got The 100 by Cass Morgan. So The 100 was a really popular TV series. I really loved it, even though I didn't ever finish watching the TV series. I don't like the books as much. They're kind of written in a much more simple way, like they're targeted at a younger audience, I think. But I still enjoyed it enough that I think I do want to continue with the series, and maybe at some point watch the TV series, rewatch the TV series, finish it, and then compare the two. So there's 3 more books in this series that I would need to read. Basically, we have some kind of apocalypse on Earth, and the only survivors are people who went out into the space station. Unfortunately, they're running out of resources to keep living out in space, so they decide to send their prisoners down to Earth. Now, the only prisoners they have are people who are under 18 who have committed crimes, because anyone who's over 18 who has committed crimes just gets killed straight away, because we do not have the resources to keep those people alive. But people who are under 18 get to stay alive, but just locked up. So they decide to send them down to Earth to see if it's now an okay place to live. The book's a little bit silly because it's more focused on like these teen relationships rather than like this serious plot. But still, I want to read it. So that's another one I need to get to. Okay, then book series I need to read 4 books for. I can never decide whether this really fits on the list or not. So it's the Jarin series by Kate Elliott. There's 4 books. I actually read this a long time ago. I actually read a long time ago this book, the second book in the series, not realizing it was a second book, even though it says right on the front, book 2. I don't know what I was thinking. But anyway, I read it. It's like this woman who comes from like a more futuristic civilization, but she runs away and lives with this nomadic tribe rather than living in the spaceship. I don't really remember that much about it, but I've kind of read this one, but I would need to reread it, and I want to read the first book first. Crazy idea. And then I guess read the next 2 as well. So it's a little bit weird because I'm counting all 4 books in the series as books I need to read, but actually I have read the second one, but I need to reread it. So it doesn't make sense to count it as 3 books. So I'm counting it as 4 books. I don't know. It doesn't make sense. Then we have the Libriomancer series. I think actually the series is called Magic Ex Libris. But basically it's following this society of people who can pull objects out of books using magic. And there's all these magical creatures that have come out of books also in the world that they're trying to protect people from. So I've only read the first one. It wasn't perfect, but it was interesting enough that I do want to continue the series. I've never seen this book series anywhere. I don't even know where I got this from. Some kind of book fair probably, but 4 more books to read for this one. Then next we've got Alcatraz versus the Evil Librarians by Brandon Sanderson. I've only read the first one of this, and I believe there's 5 books in this series. He has been talking about releasing another book, but I'm pretty sure that it's some kind of like after the main series kind of book. I won't know until I get there, but at the moment I'm counting it as 4 more books to read until I learn otherwise. So this book, actually interesting, at my library, this series, you have to request it. Like they have it, but they don't put it on the shelves. This is a middle grade series, and I feel like maybe they just don't want to put a middle grade series out on the shelves that calls librarians evil. So basically this series follows a boy named Alcatraz who is an orphan and discovers that the evil librarians are basically hiding a bunch of information about the world from everybody else. It's been a while since I read it, but it is a lot of fun, and I would like to read the rest of the series at some point. Again, whenever I have time to get to it. But as well, this is one where it's a middle grade series, so it shouldn't take me that long to actually read them. Can you hear me starting to get annoyed at myself for not having read all of these? Okay, then next we've got the Crown of Stars series by Kate Elliott. This is one, if you watch my videos, you'll know I've been reading for a while. All the books are really thick. This is the 7th book in the series. It's actually not that thick, but some of the other ones, like at the moment I'm reading Child of Flame, and it's like 850 pages, and they're massive pages, and they're a lot to get through, but it's a really epic fantasy with different nations at war, all these different mythological creatures, like celestial magic and like portals through the stars, like elven people returning in some kind of cataclysmic event. There's so much going on in these books, and I'm loving them. It's just taking me 12 billion years to get through them. Oh, and before anyone suggests that I should listen to the audiobooks instead of struggling through them, they've only started recording the audiobooks, so I think there's only audiobooks for like the first few books. And as well, none of those audiobooks are available in New Zealand, so 0% helpful. I don't know why I'm putting some books up there and not others. What a mess. Oh, but I've got 4 more books to read in this series, including this one that I'm currently progressing on. So I think I can do it this year. I think I can do it. Okay, then we've got the Seven Waters series by Juliet Marillier. This is the 4th book in the series. I believe each one kind of follows like a different generation in this family. So the first one was kind of a Seven Swans retelling. The main girl is cursed to have to weave these horrible things out of nettles, which really hurts her hands, and she's not allowed to speak the whole time she does it. If she does before she's finished weaving these things, her brothers will never be turned back from swans. But at the same time, she gets kidnapped and all these really awful things happen to her, and she has to remain silent for the whole time. It was a bit of a slow start, but I ended up really loving it, and I would really like to read the rest of the series. I've only got this 4th one though. I need to track down some of the other books in the series. But annoyingly as well, there's 6 books in this series. Don't you think if it's the Seven Waters series, it should have 7 books? There's only 6, which means I have 5 more to read from that series. Then we've got the Dune series by Frank Herbert. I only just started reading this when the movie came out. I've read so far the first 2 books. I had mixed feelings about them. I really loved the first half of Dune. Didn't really like the second half, especially the ending. The second book was kind of good. So I'm interested to see what the rest of the series will do. I think I've got 6 to read. I'm not sure they're going to be my favorite, but I still do really like some of the ideas in that series, so I'm excited to finish it. Then we get to a series where I need to read 12 books to finish the series, and what's really annoying is I didn't start this series until this year, so when I added this to the list, it had quite a negative effect. I'm talking about the Skullduggery Pleasant series though, and I've been listening to the audiobooks of these, most of which are pretty short, so again, I should be able to get through this one. It shouldn't be too much of a drama, even though there's a lot of books. So this series is kind of a childhood favorite of a lot of people. We've got Skullduggery Pleasant, who is this detective but also a skeleton, and he's introducing this girl named Stephanie to the magical world just as some evil things start to try and come back into the world. Oh, I do also think this is another one where there's another book being released soon, but from what I can tell, it's almost the start of a new series, so I'm not counting it for now. I'm counting it as complete for now, until I learn otherwise. Then also with 12 books for me still to read is the Oz series by Frank Baum. So this is starting with The Marvelous Land of Oz. What was the first book called? Because I think The Wizard of Oz is the second book. Am I losing my mind and getting this mixed up with Narnia? Maybe The Wizard of Oz was the first book. And then we had The Marvelous Land of Oz. And then there's like a whole bunch more books. I think I've read the first 3 and there's like 15 books in the series. I loved The Wizard of Oz when I was a kid. I especially loved Return to Oz, so I've been enjoying reading the books. I did have the audiobook for the whole series, but I decided to put it on hold until I can read it at the same time as the Wicked series by Gregory Maguire and like compare how Gregory Maguire has used the world of Oz in his retelling. But that's a project I will try and get to in the second half of this year, probably. And then lastly, we've got The Wheel of Time. So I think I am reading this month book 4 and 5. And I'm also counting New Spring, which is like the prequel to the series, in my count for this series. So 12 more books to read. This is book 13. It's basically an epic fantasy with all kind of twisty multiverse stuff almost. A lot of prophecies being turned around, people learning about their magic. It's a popular series. You've probably heard about it. It was recently made into a TV show. But I would like to read all the books before I watch the TV show, which means I have a lot to read. But I'm also kind of excited about it because Brandon Sanderson did finish off the series and he is one of my favorite authors. And it is a pretty interesting series, albeit slow at times. And to be honest, I have my doubts about whether I can finish this one this year, but we're going to try. So that's a lot of books from a lot of series that I need to get through. And there are still more series that I need to get through, but we're going to save that for another video, another day. So check back in if you want to know what the other ones are. Also let me know if there's any series on this list that you love or you hate, ones that I should try and get to sooner rather than later. Otherwise, thank you so much for watching. I hope that you are doing well, and I will see you next time.